In the previous video, we demonstrated Dave setting up the corner angles, running the string line, and marking for the holes to be drilled. He then used the auger attachment with the skid steer to drill the holes. In this episode, we will feature using the same string lines to set the post.
Okay, so as you may notice, the third hole from the corner is a lot larger. There was a large rock down there that I had to use the excavator to dig out. So these posts are already set, but this gives you a good example of how I put a string line up after I set my corner post and I'm working on down the line, whether it's 2 or 3 posts or whether it's 100 posts or 200 posts. This is the way that you want to do it, some fashion of this. So what happens here is you space that off, let's say with a carpenter's pencil or a paint stick or something, an 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch thick on the very first post. And then when you come down to your next post, and of course this one's already set, but then your pencil just barely slides behind it. It doesn't have to be perfect, it's probably on this one, it'll fit back there. What happens if you don't have a little bit of space? And this works on posts, it works on trusses, it works on so many things. You're better off to have it spaced a little bit away, know what it is, and do this. Otherwise, this string gets looser in the middle the longer it gets. And as you keep bringing your post up and putting them in the hole, you start pushing on that string. Out in the middle of your line, that string will get pushed out by each and every post just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until you start to get over the halfway mark, and then the string starts to get tighter and you can't push it as far. Well, by this time it's secured on the other end and you'll start curving back in. And when you look back at your row, you'll have a bow. And if let's say you're doing 20 posts, you'll have an inch or two of bow and all that. And once you're there, and you can't tell it until you get about 60 or 75% of the way down the line. So anyway, if you have a little space, you go right down each post as you set them, and that's your guide. Even if it's a little tight, 1/4 inch isn't any big deal. By the time you accumulate a couple inches, that's kind of a big deal. So that's my advice, and that's the way I set posts. And I plumb everything off string. These pencils are normally about 1/4 of an inch thick and about 1/2 to 9/16 of an inch wide. So that kind of gives you a good rule of thumb. You can figure that's a little over 1/4 inch. You could space it out 1/2 inch. Doesn't matter, just as long as you use the same thing all the way down. So that's how we space our posts. Using the excavator is kind of nice because you don't end up knocking any dirt off the side of the hole down underneath your post and have to deal with that. I really kind of liked it. Sure was a lot easier on my back that way.
It always amazes me how much Dave can accomplish on his own with just a few pieces of equipment.
And I always use a 2x4 or a big spud bar to move the bottom around on big posts like this. These posts right here are about 16 feet long, and it's quite a bit to move around. And when it gets to the longer ones, they're 24 and some change. So it's a lot of posts to have sitting on a small end there, and it's tight and it doesn't want to move very easily sometimes. So make sure you have something that gives you good leverage to get down that hole and move those posts around.
We had to switch concrete companies for this phase because the other one wasn't available, but they'll be back for the next round. Okay, the concrete truck's here, and I just wrote a check and gave it to him, so let's go out and see what's going on.
As you can see here, I've taken the pencils out from between the post and the string. At this point, it's kind of a moot point to have them in there, and there's a chance they'll fall in the concrete.
Hard now.
you liked the video, and if so, it sure would help us out if you'd hit the thumbs up button. Not sure where Dave went. Well, he's back to work.
Daphne had finished up with what she was working on, and so she came over to give me a hand with these last few posts. I'm going to take a little break here and get a plan on who's going to be responsible for doing what. That way the rest of this road works as smoothly as possible.
So are you suggesting that we put the horizontal in or the diagonal post up first?
I think we do the horizontal bracing first and then the diagonal. And that way we can make sure the post is square and that we get the diagonal so it's not twisting the post one way or another. A couple of these holes are kind of rough in the bottom, and that's going to make it tough to get them on location. I don't know, just kind of slipped through the cracks there and I didn't get them smoothed off well enough.
That sounds good.
What I'm seeing is when we get down to the end, we may kind of have to reverse it a little bit to get that post right where we want it. If there's any accumulation of air, to get the space right between it and the post that's already set down there.
Hey, you know what's red and smells like blue paint?
No, what?
Red paint.
Let's get to work. So today we're here at the side of the Barndominium. We're just getting the last 25 posts set. We set 21 the first time, set 25 the second. About 10 yards of concrete coming. The holes are 45 inches deep or so, 2 foot in diameter, and they're sitting on about 12 inches of concrete in the bottom. So like I said, we'll go ahead and get these last 25 filled up, let them sit a day or two, and then we'll start putting them to the height and setting trusses on them. So hopefully a pretty exciting day. One thing that always surprises me is the rear discharge trucks. I'm used to front discharge, and then pulling in and having to back up and can't see the end of the chute. They do an amazing job at it, but boy, it seems like it's a lot harder. Just for your information, not really a good idea to start working things on the concrete truck unless the driver invites you to, as far as moving his chute. And James and I are going over a few of the details, that hand motions and vernacular, so that we are on the same page.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What we're going to be doing here today at Curtis Concrete with David and his lovely assistant is we're going to be pouring these footers for these uprights. We hope you enjoy the show. Please do not attempt this at home. We are professionals in everything that we do. Smile, have a good day, and know that you are enjoyed by somebody somewhere. Thank you and have a good day.
It sure feels good to have these posts set. Now we can move on to the next phase. We hope you'll follow along and hit the subscribe button so you won't miss the next video.